Hello, and welcome to GHOne Newsroom. My name is Emmanuel. Agyabeng, out of stories now. Former Member of Parliament for Owutu Senya East, Mavis Hawakumsin, demands an apology from those who accused her of being behind the 2020 election violence following the latest reports from the Interior Minister on the matter. Also ahead in this broadcast, MPP stalwart Dr. Richard Anani expresses deep concern about the current state of the party, lamenting that it has sunk too low. We will also hear from the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly as its task force arrests 30 commercial drivers for allegedly charging unapproved night fares within the metropolis. And in the world of business, inflation declines from 9.4% in September to 8% in October 2025. Elsewhere, Nigerian news editor, ongoing genocide in parts of Nigeria as the presidency announces meeting with President Trump to discuss the claims. The details of these stories and many others coming up in the next 60 minutes to stay with us here on Newsroom. Grateful that you could join us on this broadcast. We begin from the court, and prosecutors from the Office of the Special Prosecutor are urging the High Court in Accra to protect the safety and welfare of an undercover investigator expected to testify in the corruption case involving Charles Bissiu and two others. According to the OSP, the witness, has genuine fear for her safety, citing past events where a former colleague's picture, here mentioned Ahmed Swali, was published to the public, putting him in harm's way. The OSP's prosecutors argued that the court has the authority to grant protection to the witness, allowing him to testify with a space only shown to the parties involved. They emphasized that the witness' safety is paramount and that the court should not wait until something happens before taking action. The OSP is not asking for the witness to be put in a witness protection program, but rather for the court to exercise its authority to protect the witness's identity during testimony. Our legal affairs correspondent Mutala Inusa joins us from court with an update on this particular matter. Let's speak to Mutala now for more on this. Mutala, help us understand really what the OSP is seeking from the High Court. If it's not a witness protection program, are we looking at perhaps a mask to cover his face in court?
Well, Emmanuel, absolutely not so. In the request before the court by the special prosecutor, all that they are asking is that the witness will be protected from the public eye. The direct parties involved, that is the accused persons and their lawyers, and of course, the team of prosecutors will be the only people to be allowed to sit through this particular proceedings. But the lawyers for the accused persons have taken a different view. They have vehemently opposed to the request being made by the special prosecutor's representative here before the criminal court for Justice Audrey Kokuvite's court. What they are contending is that, one, they have made checks to come out to confirm that the witness that they are talking about, who, according to OSP, works with Tiger IPI, as we speak, their checks indicated that Tiger IPI is not a registered entity. Secondly, they have not also shown any uniqueness to show that the witness that they want to testify in camera has a certificate from that particular entity being employed as an investigative journalist. Again, they are saying that, look, they made reference to the Anas Arumiyao Anas case where versus Kwesi Nyanteji, where the court made an order that Anas unmask and testify for the accused person to see his face to buttress their point. As we speak, he's still having their particular opposition before the court. The lawyer, Augustine Sobo, is currently on his feet opposing to that request. At the end, Justice Kokuvite will have the honors to determine whether or not the witness that the prosecution will be calling as their very first witness would be allowed to testify in camera or the court will order that he sit in open court and testify. But for the OSP, they think that, look, we are not saying that he should mask his face. All that we are saying is that he should be protected from the public eye because he thinks that his life is at stake, especially so when his colleague, Ambet Swale's pictures were put in the public domain, and days later, he was murdered. So that is the fear that they are telling the court that their witness is having. But they also, the accused person have also raised the point that, look, you are mentioning Anas as your boss. Even Anas, when you click on the internet by seconds, you have the picture of Anas out there. So what exactly is the point that you are making? The key investigator himself has his pictures all over. So what is the witness trying to say? So this is the line of arguments that have been advanced before the court, after which the court will have a decision to make.
Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed. We'll closely follow this particular matter and get to know what the decision of the court will be. Mutala Yunusa is our legal affairs correspondent here at the EIB Network, bringing us up to speed on happenings at the court in respect of the OSP Charles Bishop matter. Away from that, Programs Manager and Team Lead at the Center for Democratic Development Ghana, Paula Brampa-Mensah, has expressed support for the Interior Minister's decision to fully implement the recommendations of the Ayawaso West Wuogon Commission of Inquiry report, as well as plans to compensate victims of electoral violence during the 2020 and 2024 elections. Speaking in an interview with GHOne News, he emphasized that all cases that were before the courts where persons who should be appropriately compensated after going through legal processes should be done, and as well those current criminal implications must be as well seen to the full letter. He noted that ensuring accountability through the courts would serve as a deterrent and help prevent such incidents from occurring in future elections.
I've gone ahead to say we should implement fully the recommendation from the Ayawaso West Wuogon Commission of Inquiry report. I support that too, but I go further to say that all electoral violence cases must go through the processes, the legal process, the court processes, because don't forget, most of the incidents have criminal connotations in them.
Right.
And it's only the court that can deal with criminality. We need to finish the processes, investigations, and court. It's only the court of competent jurisdiction in our country and elsewhere that can prove that, yes, somebody is guilty. So if we jump the gun and say we should start compensating people, yes, compensation will be there, but what happens to the people who perpetrated the act? So I believe that, yes, the compensation can go ahead, but we need to complete the process to ensure that, and Honorable mentioned it, that we need to find a way to ensure that these cases do not repeat in future elections. We can only do that when the perpetrators have been found and punished.
Well, still on this particular report, the former Member of Parliament for the Wutusenya East constituency, Honorable Mavis Awakumsen, is demanding an apology from those who accused her of being behind the 2020 election violence, following the Interior Minister's latest report on the matter. In a statement issued earlier today, the former MP said findings presented by the Minister of the Interior, Muntaka Mubarak, have vindicated her, confirming that she had no involvement in the disturbance. And politically driven. Madam Hukumsin added that the false allegations contributed to an unprovoked attack on her during the Ablekuma North by-election earlier this year, an incident she says nearly cost her life. Let's bring you up to speed on what the reports into the electoral violence in 2020 and 2024 says. Interior Minister Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak shared a set of that. Let's bring you to light.
So 2024 election violence cases, starting with Wutusenya East constituency, that's Kaswa. The task force observed that the Honorable Phyllis now Koyo Okeno denied that her convoy was attacked. She was nowhere near the scene of the incident. Persons who were involved in the incident have avoided speaking with the task force. while Muhammad Ali and others who were in the Mahindra pickup truck and fired shots from their vehicle have also avoided speaking with the task force. So their opinion have not been established. Muhammad Ali is said to have been flown abroad for further treatment. The late Yusuf Larry Idris died from a gunshot, and those who were in the Mahindra pickup with him know what happened. The driver of the Mahindra has been traced, and further investigation is ongoing. The task force will continue with the investigation.
Engaging security analyst Samuel Appiah on the findings into the electoral violence of 2020 and 2024. Samuel Appiah will be joining us briefly for us to speak on the details of that particular findings. It would be recalled that the president directed for the IGP to investigate happenings around 2020 and 2024, matters that have come to bear in the case that political parties, police, the military were found complicit by the use of firearms in this particular report that was found. We understand 15 persons died from the findings of the report, with 40 persons injured. Out of the 15, 7 who died through the actions of the police and military. Let's go for a quick break. When we return, we'll be engaging Samuel Appiah on these findings.
But Mom, these shoes are too big for me.
Oh, this one by
Thanks for keeping faith with us. This is GHOne Newsroom. My name is Emmanuel. Let's have the conversation into the electoral violence that marred the process in 2020 and 2024. Samuel Appiah joins me via Zoom for a conversation on this. Samuel, grateful that you could join us to have your expert insights into this particular matter. The report, as we see it, speaks about the use of firearms by political parties, the military, the police, which even led to the loss of lives. On the surface of it, after coming into contact with the findings that were presented by the Interior Minister, what do you largely have to say about the use of live ammunition during election to separate crowds?
Hello, can you get back to?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so I was referring to excerpts of the findings that were presented by the Interior Minister that spoke largely about the use of firearms. The 7 people that died, the deaths were attributed to the use of firearms to separate crowds from the reports that we are seeing. Largely, as an expert from where you said, the use of live ammunition in crowd control. This particular report tells us that it is still good, but what do you have to make of the entire finding?
Well, good afternoon to your viewers. I think it's quite worrying because we all have the understanding that when it gets into elections and in election security management procedures, one of the key areas is the admonition that we do not use weapons and ammunition. And so in most of the cases, security officials are not allowed to be within the parameters with weapons and ammunition and all of that. Unfortunately, given the circumstances that normally it characterizes our election processes. Some people, arm themselves and then they go to distract and cause some kind of distasteful attitude and behavior in the process. And in most cases, the reinforcement team that are invited or called by the security officials to come and augment their strength. Some of these officers are mostly armed. And in the circumstances, they resort to the use of these weapons. And unfortunately, people in the process loses their lives and all of that. What is gladdening to me is that the committee is able to establish the cause. And so I am of the opinion, as far as we are able to get to know what, the cause or what brings in this kind of loss of life, we should be able to as well find a solution. And I am quite, optimistic that the committee, as much as they are able to establish the findings, they should be able to as well prescribe or some recommendation that will be also put in place to mitigate the situation or making sure that these occurrences will be minimized going into the next election. So we will have to admonish ourselves, the security officials, mostly because we have these weapons for them and they have the authority, will not want to also stand aloof whilst people attack them and want to destroy and cause harm to them, damage electoral materials and all of that. So they will be forced to also resort to the use of.
Unfortunately, we have lost Samuel Appiah there. We were trying to understand his position. I understand we have Samuel Appiah now. Samuel, if you can hear me, you can land on your position you were sharing earlier. I think he's gone down. But he was saying largely that we need to admonish ourselves, to take key learnings from this particular report and make sure that elections going forward, we will not suffer the same violence. How Akumsins demand an apology. The Interior Minister has assured that there will be compensation for families who have suffered some form of loss due to electoral violence. We are yet to see what the response would be on how Akumsins demand for an apology from Phyllis Nakoyo, who is now Member of Parliament for the Otusenya East constituency. But let's go to social media now and see what you have been saying about the recent report that have come. And Nanama Akwa is standing by with all the details. Nanamaka, what's up?
Well, Emmanuel, the minister is saying that everything in the report should be implemented. And here is what you had to respond. Ransford said he's not interested in Boku Peace campaign. We also have Edward. You are saying, Ayekese, all right, Chiriponi election violence can also be investigated. Don't talk with, I think he meant to say, emotions. We also have here Tapa Williams. Bravo, now you are starting with justice. Nana Opoku says, before you realize you are in opposition again. Why do you have a problem with him saying that? Francis thinks it's diversionary tactics. We also have Isaac. Let's finish with the Galamsey MPs first. Ima says, this is why we voted for you. We also have Chris saying, yes, been waiting for this. Bernie Boat adds, misusing taxpayers' money for unnecessary things. They should probe into all their by-election violences from Atiwa to Chiriponi and others. Let me leave that there. Whilst other sectors are sinking, you are thinking about the past. Your recent Ablekuma North issue, see the judgment you gave. Those who beat the NPP members were only charged 5K or so without any serious punishment. Settings are buying. We also have Frederick who says, Ghana Pa. Alfred says, Ayekese. Well, let's hope that all these things that were written in the report are implemented so that people will get a final closure on this issue. My name is Nanama Akwa. Emma, back over to you.
Nanama Akwa, thank you so much for the update from social media. Let's do some political news now. And here, former Minister of Roads and Highways and MPP stalwart, Dr. Winfred Richardanani, has expressed deep concern that the current state of the party is bad in his own words. It has sunk too low. That he says some members now openly challenge former President John Agyekum Kufuor, even in his presence. He was speaking in an interview with Kojo Mahafo on EIB's Ebusia 96.5 FM. Let's have a listen to that bite.
2 weeks ago, partner, some meeting. President Kufuor in the question will say, Saturday, yes, talk about to my protein wine. What did he say? And yet, whoa. And she said, Cecilia, the chairman, elected also, Bibintin, Ontimi, and actors said they also acting. And it's a bear, and Oma be chairman, only the Tiasna, and can come in a moment. So, now you come in a bomber. Minka, you're not yet a group where woman a baby, I'm a partner. I was. You reacted? Where? Is it a bomber for your chairman? Abonya? Yes. Abonya, partner, yet no, Mamma. Abonya, what does it mean? I see if I can afford to do a record, and then I said, no, episode 3. Oh, and see, I'm saying, in the panel, when who are bringing Kaka, in a partner, the way acting chairman, I can't say President Kufuor, a panicho, a small can, or we call Agyabeng.
Away from that, the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly task force has arrested 30 commercial drivers for allegedly charging unapproved night fares within the Kumasi metropolis. The arrests were carried out during a special operation aimed at clamping down on drivers who exploit passengers by imposing illegal fare increases at night. According to the KMA, several drivers operating within major transport terminals, including Kejetia, Edum, and Asafo, were found to be charging beyond the approved rates set by transport unions and regulatory authorities. Let's hear from the head of transport at the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, Randy Wilson, who spoke to my colleague Khadija Idrisu earlier.
The mayor sat with the unions and asked them to give a moratorium that anybody that wants to join any of the stations does not pay any entrance fee. And that has run for more than 6 months. And so we expect that everybody who wants to join the union should have done so by now. So that is number one. The second is, as you have joined the union, you must load from an approved location, a terminal, a loading point, a station. And so if you go and stand anywhere else, apart from where it has been approved, then the task force has the right to arrest you. The next is that you have to put in front of your vehicle the assembly within which you are working and then the destination that you are going to. So the destination indicator must be fixed right in front of your vehicle. If you do not do that, then you are also flouting the rule and you can be arrested. There are others too. They will pick the passengers and then instead of taking them to the far end, they will break the journey into short and charge them. And the rule says you pick the passenger, you must take him or her to the far end of the journey, or else the passenger himself says, a line is that we are helping the various transport unions to fix the destination indicators in front of the vehicles of their members. And so there are forms that have been designed that pick database on the driver, on the car owner, and then on the vehicle. And we use this database as basis for the issuance of the destination indicator to them. And we have noted that most of the time vehicles that have these destination indicators, in addition to the assembly stickers, don't flout the rules, but it is those that do not have them, that do not have places where they are supposed to load, they are the ones that flout the rules. If you go to a station and it is supposed to take you to a Buakwa, there is no way you will pick a vehicle from the station and they will allow you at Sofo line and pick you again.
Well, let's cross over to the Ashanti region now and engage our regional correspondent, Isaac Justice Bidiako, to get some clarity on what happened. Isaac, thank you so much. Help us to understand the nature of these arrests. Randy Wilson was mentioning destination number and a whole lot of rules. Were the drivers aware of these rules and were they pre-informed about these, the enforcement of the rules before the arrests were made?
Well, the drivers are in the known already. they have just decided not to comply by these directives. And mostly the ones who lead this agenda for the drivers are the trust scheme mates, the conductors. They are the ones leading this. Most of the time when you sit in commercial transport and you are going, let's say from Swame to Kejetia, and you sit in, the mate will give you a different fare. But when you challenge him, the driver will tell him, you may just take it like that, let's go. And so it is a collaborative thing that drivers and mates are doing. But because they are behind the steer, they do not talk about it. It is only the mates who initiate it. For example, what Randy was talking in particular, from Swame post office in particular to Kejetia, the approved fare is 3 cedis. But in morning, around 5:30, from 5:30 to, let's say 7 a.m., they charge 5 cedis. And when the vehicle parked there, they announce and tell you 5 cedis, you don't have 5 cedis, don't come. And that's what they've been doing. Those who are supposed to even pick passengers from Makru to Kejetia, they will pick you and drop you at Swamiran Abad. Immediately, all the passengers step down from the vehicle. You hear them announcing Swami to Kejetia. Then they will take additional charges. So a journey that you're supposed to pay, let's say 3 cedis, 50 pesos, you will be paying either 10 cedis or 8 cedis at least, instead of paying for the 3 cedis, 50 pesos. And now one critical thing that drivers are also raising, a reason why they are doing that is that if they do not overcharge the passengers, they will not be able to meet their daily sales, simply because from Kejetia roundabout, the right opposite the MTN station or office, police personnel are there from morning to evening. Every vehicle that passes through where the police are, they take the person 10 cedis. The driver has to pay 10 cedis to the police personnel. Now they do their calculations. So if he has to go, let's say 5 times a day, he has to pay 50 cedis. And in the journey from, let's say, Macro to Kejetia, each passenger pays 30 cedis, 3 cedis, 50 pesos. It means that the police officer standing there has taken at least about 3 passengers' money in that morning. So every load, they short 10 cedis. So in the evening, they have to find ways and means to meet their daily sales. And that is why they have decided to adapt those strategies so they will be able to meet their daily sales for their vehicle owners. And that is a reason that the commercial transport owners, particularly the tractor operators, have given to why they are doing what they are doing in commercial. But KMA insists that no, that is not an excuse. The rules are clear. This is how much you're supposed to charge a passenger from a destination to a destination. And so they will not accept, and for which reason they have decided to arrest drivers who are going by, who have defaulted their directive. So that has been the general situation in Kumasi now. And my fear is that getting to the Christmas, from next 2 weeks going, then it's going to be on easy task for KMA to manage, because the drivers where traffic is also going to build up. And this is how they are going to operate in Kumasi, because every year that is what they do. But this time around, they started early. KMA started this, enforcement some 4 or 5 months ago. So the drivers have decided not to comply simply because now they are giving the excuse that police are always on their neck, demanding money from them, even though they have no problem with their documentation on the vehicle that they are driving. Yet they meet them, they demand money. And if you don't take care, your car owner will accuse you of stealing his money. So they have to find ways and means to meet their daily sales.
But Justice, this, speaking of the KMA and then the fact that we are heading to the Christmas season, this action that they've taken, is there a plan to do it continuously, or will it just be unannounced? They'll just conduct sweeps once in a while to check on drivers to see whether they're doing the right thing?
In fact, with KMA, they have been very proactive on this. They have met the union, the driver unions. They've given them enough education. Just that the drivers are recalcitrant, they decided not to comply by directive, because personally I have sat in some of their meetings, so film it and use it as news content. But yet we are still talking about the same issue. So KMA has explored all the avenues that they needed to before embarking on these swoops in the capital.
Isaac, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed. Isaac Jasubediako is our Shanti regional correspondent. They're bringing us up to speed on the arrests of some 30 commercial drivers for unapproved charges when it comes to fares to commuters. Away from that, international relations expert Dr. Eshima Holovo is urging the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Summan Kingsford Bagbin, to strike a balance by initiating programs that promote peace and cohesion in the northern part of the country, whilst also focusing on its international duties. Speaking on News Tonight, Dr. Holovo acknowledged public calls from the Speaker to first focus on promoting peace in northern Ghana after the Speaker faced criticism after news emerged that he has been selected as part of a delegation of the Inter-Parliamentary Union to mediate in the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Background, you should try and do something about them before going on the international stage to mediate between conflict. But you see, the Speaker occupies a very important role within the governance framework of Ghana. And given the increasing role of Ghana within the international space, you are likely to see some of these appointments coming from international bodies trying to leverage on the neutrality of Ghana to deal with conflict situations somewhere. So how you achieve balance is to ensure that in as much as you are mediating international conflict and so forth and so on, you are equally paying attention by initiating measures that can address some of the conflicts that we are seeing, particularly in the North. Given the Speaker's longevity in politics, particularly his deep knowledge in the cultural and the historical issues in the North, he can personally initiate a certain program that aiming at bringing peace to the areas that are not quite peaceful in the North. So yes, he may have to use his high office. He has respect across the political divide. He needs to bring the politicians in the North together to try and have a platform where they can try and reach consensus among themselves as to how they deal with some of the conflict situations in the North. But that does not take away his mediating role as part of the Interparliamentary Union to bring some level of peace and contact between Ukraine and Russia. That role is also very important, particularly for a country like Ghana that is growing in influence and trying to assert influence without necessarily having the power. These rules allow Ghana to exercise agency within international relations and international system. It gives Ghana the international visibility and the prestige that the country is crying for.
The coordinator for pro-environmental group Eco-Conscious Citizens, that's Awulasewa, says the arraignment of Esutivy North MP Ebenezer Ado for alleged involvement in anti-galamsey operations by the NIMOS task force in the Ahafo region sends a strong message to those engaged in illegal mining. But according to her, the incident that happened over the weekend in the region sends a clear indication to the presidency that a state of emergency must be declared on galamsey in the country.
Actually shows that there are a lot of people are going to lose a lot when illegal mining ends, and therefore there's a lot of fight push that. And we believe that with the necessary reverse action, because you see, so many Ghanaians are being poisoned. 35 million of us are being poisoned. Activities of how many illegal miners. So what happens shows us that we need to tackle this matter robustly. Members need to be well resolved, so that they can deal with the environmental terrorism that is taking place. As you said, what happened could have gone anyway. It could have been a fatal, it could have been fatalities. We thank God that there have been no lives lost, but we need to learn from it. And I think it's a good thing that the MP in question has been questioned by the police, has been arraigned before court. I think this sends a clear signal that anybody who is alleged to be involved or complicit in illegal mining, inciting a mob or what have you, will be dealt with. So if we send the necessary message to all who are involved in illegal mining. Well, see, the president agreed that there's a national emergency. He just hasn't told us what exactly he's waiting for to declare a state of emergency. Is it every government to be dropping this? We don't know. But what we do know is that we need to have.
Well, the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey is also asking for the presidency to publicly affirm zero political interference in such operations, and as well to also improve security cover for Naimos tax force. But we have some breaking news for you now. Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice Straj has found former Commissioner General of the GRA, Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu-Amwa, guilty of procurement breaches and administrative lapses that cost the state nearly 9 million Ghana cedis. This finding is detailed in a 157-page report signed by Straj Commissioner Dr. Joseph Withal on October 28, 2025. Now, according to the report, Dr. Owusu-Amwa oversaw fraudulent and irregular contract awards to 3 companies: Renault Motors Ghana Limited, Telenor Ghana Limited, and Sahel Motors and Trading Company Limited for the supply of vehicles and logistics to the GRA. In a subsequent broadcast, we'll bring you details of that 150-plus page report that has found Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu, former GRA Commissioner General, for administrative lapses that cost the state nearly 9 million Ghana cedis. You're still watching Newsroom on GHOne TV. We are back with more.
Welcome to the Africa Prosperity Dialogues, where business and political leaders meet to drive Africa's single market.
Distinguished guests, this is
Has been found guilty of procurement breaches and administrative lapses that cost the state, the figure I mentioned to you earlier, 189 million Ghana cedis. The report was dated October 28, 2025. According to details of the report, it says that he oversaw fraudulent and irregular contract awards to 3 companies. The companies mentioned include Runner Motors and Telenor Ghana Limited, Sahel Motors and Trading Company Limited for the supply of vehicles and logistics to the GRA. Our political desk head Ibrahim Al-Hassan joins me in the studio with details of that particular report. IB, 157-page report, 189 million Ghana cedis. What are we dealing with here?
Well, so aside the breaches you related to, Reverend Dr. Amisadai Owusu-Amoah is also flagged by this particular STRAT report to have misled the PPA in approving the request of the GRA to award the contract to the said companies using single source procurement method in dubious circumstances. The report goes further to talk about the fact that the award of the contract was in breach of some provisions of the Public Procurement Act. It also says the impugned companies were unable to duly fulfill their contractual obligations simply because they did not possess the requisite capacity to carry out the contract of such magnitude, or not because of the disruptions in the supply chain owing to COVID-19 pandemic, as alleged by the respondent. The respondent here is Reverend Amisadai Owusu-Amoah. Now, another claim that the report makes against Reverend Amisadai Owusu-Amoah is that after the award of the contract, 2 of the companies, Telenor and then Sagel, because they lacked the capacity, what they did was to subcontract Runner Motors to supply their part of the obligation. And this reaffirms the fact that they lack the capacity. Again, the office locations that they gave, when STRAT checked out these locations, they were non-existent, according to this report. So consequently, what STRAT has done is to refer this to the Attorney General and ask for the owners and then the managers of these companies, and then also the GRA commissioner at that time, Reverend Dr. Amisadai Owusu-Amoah, to be prosecuted. But of course, the report talks about the fact that the entire amount should be recovered.
That's the 189 million
should be recovered in its entirety. The report equally faults PPA, that PPA did a shoddy job. If he had done much more digging, these infractions will have been very apparent. The lack of capacity of these companies will have been very apparent to the PPA then, right? And then, of course, former Deputy Finance Minister, Abner Seasari, is equally indicted in this report, owing to the fact that there were some documentations that exchanged hands that ought to have served as red flags. But of course, because of, in the words of the report, political patronage and political considerations, those red flags were overlooked.
Well, IB, perhaps a very unrelated matter. We are seeing Abner indicted again in this particular report, and we are seeing calls for her to be removed as SPAC chair.
Yeah, Kwame Plus has submitted a petition to the Speaker that the chairperson for the Public Accounts Committee, which is sitting as we're speaking right now, should lose her job. The reason is simple. The reports that are being considered bordered on the previous administration's period, and I'm talking about 2024 Auditor General's report. All the actors, all the political actors within the report were from the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo second term, which includes Abner Seasari. So A+'s argument is that she cannot be a judge in her own court, and as a result, she should be removed. I know how such appointments are made. She was not appointed by Parliament. The chairperson portfolio or slot for the Public Accounts Committee is determined by the standing orders, and it always goes to the minority member of Parliament. It is the caucus, the minority caucus, that met and then settled on Abner Seasari. That given her experience in finance, given the fact that she rose to become a Minister of State at the Finance Ministry in charge of finance, she should be made the head. So if there is anybody who can make, unless advert findings are made, which A+ is alleging. A+ is alleging that there are some dealings that she is complicit in. If that is established, then of course that will be grounds for Parliament to consider the request of A+. But let's see how that plays out.
So, Ivy, thank you so much for bringing us details and giving us an icing on the cake in respect of the PPA and then the former GRA boss, Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu-Amoah, in respect of the Shraj report into his activities as boss. Then we understand 189 million Ghana cedis. Shraj is recommending that the full amount be recovered, as well as prosecution of him as well in said matter. Stay with us. After this, we have business news.
The Business Brief is brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
Administration.
Well, in the business brief, the year-on-year inflation rate for goods and services has declined significantly to 8% in October 2025, down from the 9.4% recorded a month earlier, that's September 2025. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, this impressive decline marks the 10th consecutive month of fallen inflation, with the rate reaching its lowest point since June 2021. During a virtual press address, government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idris noted that food and non-alcoholic beverages were the primary drivers of inflation in October 2025. My colleague Calvin Power joins me in studio with details of what the statistician had been saying. So tell us, what more did the government statistician have to say concerning the decline we are witnessing in October 2025?
All right, so as you rightly mentioned, we've witnessed some significant drop in inflation from 9.4 to 8%. And aside from this, one may ask, what drives inflation? Rightly so, food and non-alcoholic beverages. And the top 5 drivers of inflation in October has to do with smoked herrings is number 1 item that contributed to this, and followed by that green plantain or unripe plantain is also one of the items that contributed to this. Followed by plantain is cinema, culture services, cooked rice, charcoal, and ginger. Of course, ginger. You love ginger, and I love it too. So it's one of the items that contributed to this inflationary rate that we are seeing. And on regional basis, the Northeast region is leading as the highest inflationary region with some 17.3% from 20.1% in September. Wow. And the least inflationary region has to do with Bono East, all East, Bono East, which is 1.1% from 1.2%. So one may ask, after all this, what next? So the statistician, Dr. Alhassan Idris, has been giving some recommendation as to what we should do in order to either maintain the rate at this level or drop. Because if we don't follow this recommendation, we might end up seeing some shoot up in inflationary rate come next month. So he's been recommending that for government should maintain fiscal discipline as it's been going on, and also focus resources on keeping food prices low by strengthening storage, irrigation, and transport. So these are the things that he thinks that government should intervene heavily in order to actually maintain the inflationary rate or bring it down as everyone would want to. And aside from that, it's also tackled regional disparities. If you look at the disparity between the lowest and the highest region, it's quite long, 17 and 1. So he's saying that there should be a disparity. We should try to bridge that gap in terms of regional inflationary. So for the household, he says that they should take advantage of the falling inflation, plan ahead. Don't do impulse buying. If you want, you should buy in bulk. Don't just go and buy a rice of bag and go home. No, buy in bulk so that it will take you a number of periods before this come down. And in business aspect, he said they should invest in local production. They should source their products locally. Because if you want to buy from outside of Africa or outside of Ghana, you definitely have to go to the forest, get some dollars possibly before. So to avoid that exchange rate disparities, source your products locally, and that when you do it as business, you'll be able to break even and make some profit for yourself. So these are some of the details.
Thank you so much for bringing us details of that particular inflation figure we are seeing for the month of October. That's 8%. Calvin Power is my colleague here at the EIB network. Now, the 8% figure, let's tell you, does not mean necessarily that there's been a drop in prices. It says that the rate at which it increases is now at 8%, which ties within government's fiscal policy and plan for the year, says 8 to 10 percent. That's what the Bank of Ghana says. The Bank of Ghana will be meeting in the latter part of this month, November 24 to 26, to discuss the monetary policy rate. This particular figure would influence what their decision will be. We've seen a decline consistently. But concerning the drivers of inflation, Calvin mentioned rice. And for here, the Northern Caucus in Parliament has unveiled plans to boost commercial rice production up north. They believe that this will help increase local yield within the country and as well to create sustainable jobs for the youth there. Let's have a listen to that by Mahama Yariga, who is the majority leader in Parliament.
The Northern Caucus has invited the 6 municipal and district chief executives, and we're sending them this weekend to Kenya, which also has a huge rice production industry at a very large scale. And they're going to Kenya this weekend, the DCEs, and some chiefs from those locations to study commercial production of rice. And we also, as a caucus, invited some of the importers of rice to try and understand what we can do in the north to have them take the rice from us instead of importing the rice. And the importers are funding us to take, one major chief in each of the regions. So in all, about 5 very senior chiefs to Vietnam to see how they have organized themselves to produce rice and see how we can structure it, and then we can do the off-taking, and they can do the off-taking from us.
Let's now bring you some international news. Well, Nigerian news editor Solomon Ndahi has dismissed claims of an ongoing genocide in parts of Nigeria. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened military intervention over allegations of a Christian genocide. The Nigerian presidency has since announced that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will meet with President Trump to discuss the claims. Speaking to Isaac Ade on the verdict, Solomon Ndahi not only rejected the genocide allegations but also described Trump's actions as erratic.
A lot of people feel Christians in Nigeria are just being hacked to death or murdered, or they feel like if you are practicing Christianity in Nigeria now, you cannot gather in a church or you cannot go anywhere, they will just cut your head. I think that was a very, very wrong assumption by Donald Trump. Unfortunately, a lot of people in Nigeria or outside Nigeria are trying to sell that narrative because they want it for their own personal opinion, but it's not so. I'm a Christian in Nigeria, and I come from the most volatile part of Nigeria in terms of insecurity. That's the northeast of Nigeria, where you've been hearing about the Boko Haram, Chibok girls, and all of that. So the problem we're having in Nigeria is insecurity. We're having insecurity in Nigeria in the sense that we have terrorists that, even though they claim to be Muslims, as a Nigerian or as someone that follows international relations and also is familiar with religion and politics globally, I do not believe that they are Muslims, but they claim to be jihadist Muslims. And these persons go about.
Let's now bring you the latest in our world of sports.
And you're welcome to sports, where President John Dramani Mahama has ordered for a forensic audit into the All-African Games, for the African Games that was held in Ghana about a year ago. That's 2024 in March of that year. Now, this call by the President is on the back of an investigation that has been done by the NBI, who have submitted a report to the President, after which he's called on the Auditor General to conduct a report or conduct an investigation, if you like, or an audit into the whole African Games held here. Related to the organization of the African Games, including procurement, infrastructure development, expenditure management, and also how the whole project afterwards was done as well by the committee and the ministry and government in getting the whole African Games held here in Ghana on the 8th of March, 23rd of March in that particular year. Next one, and it has to do with the UEFA Champions League. Last night gave us some interesting results in the Champions League. There it is on your screens at the moment. It was indeed Napoli who were held. A goalless drawn game. They were held yesterday at home. And then Atletico Madrid also beat their opponents, Union Saint-Gilloise, by 3-1. Arsenal went away to defeat Slavia Praha by 3-0. We had AS Monaco going to Norwich to defeat Bodo Glimt by 1-0. Liverpool were too good at home Anfield as they won 1-0 against Real Madrid. Bayern Munich went away to France to defeat Paris Saint-Germain at home by 2-1. And it was Olympiacos 1, PSV Eindhoven 1, Juventus 1, Sporting Lisbon 1, and it was Tottenham Hotspur 4, Copenhagen 0. Today, the games are on again today at 5:45. Pafos take on Villarreal. Ghanaian interest in Thomas Partey in there for us, for his team Villarreal. Karabakh take on Chelsea also at the same time, 5:45. 7 p.m. we'll see these games. Sorry, 8 p.m. now we'll see these games. Ajax against Galatasaray, Benfica against Bayer Leverkusen, Club Brugge against FC Barcelona. We have International Milan against Kairat Almaty. Man City take on Borussia Dortmund. Olympic take on Atalanta. Another Ghanaian interest in Aldin Sulemana in there. And Newcastle will take on Bilbao. Ghanaian interest in Inaki William also featuring for Bilbao in that game tonight in the UEFA Champions League.
Bengazi, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed of what's happening in our world of sports. I'm a Chelsea fan, so I'm looking forward to my team winning today. But that does it for the entire 60 minutes broadcast here on Newsroom. My name is Emmanuel. Thank you for your company. And that's entire bulletin. Bye-bye.